Alright, this one is about roommates. I have actually made this video before, but apparently it's too long. Okay, now that we got our immaturity out of the way. So I will say the the roommate matching network, eHarmony, the Match.com thing that you do for roommates at Oregon State, is actually pretty helpful. You get some, you get a general idea of who you match with. But I will say that some people aren't completely honest. Um, I know someone who has a roommate right now, and my friend is actually, she stays up late, she wakes up late. She's just, one of, that's just how she is. And her roommate said, "Oh yeah, I stay up late at night and like I sleep in." Um, she turned out she goes to bed at like 9:30 or 10, and she wakes up at 5 for rowing. Um, which I mean that's not entirely her fault. She has to wake up early, but my friend really wished she had known that she was even trying out for the rowing team, because that's a source of a lot of their issues. With her roommate is turning on the lights, slamming the door, putting her stuff in her bag, kind of making a lot of noise, and my friend, she gets pretty sick of it. Uh, um, so it's the start of a lot of problems. So I would say, be completely honest on those things. Um, I would also say, I have notes. The most, again, I kind of touched up on it. So the most important thing you need to talk about is sleeping arrangements. If you can sleep with lights on, fall asleep with lights on, or with your roommate listening to music, or if you're a light sleeper, or if you're not, or when you go to bed, I will say that if you're a light sleeper, I wouldn't recommend uh, living in Findlay, especially, but also Cockler and Poling, maybe Weatherford, because those, um, depending on which room you pick, that is facing the train tracks. Um, it gets really warm in the dorm room, so it's not uncommon for people to leave their windows open at night for it to cool down a little bit, even though it's freezing outside. They just crack it open. Anyways, and there's a train that goes right through the middle of campus, and that train comes in at 2 and 3 in the morning. And if you're a light sleeper, it will wake you up, and because its horns blaring, choo choo, and you'll get really sick of that pretty quick. So I will say that's something that you should consider especially when you're picking a room. Um, but it also applies to whether you can get up and make noise, turn on lights, and if your room is going to sleep through that or not. Again, because it is a source of a lot of problems. Um, when you do homework, afternoon versus night, my roommate does her homework during the afternoon. I do mine at night. She's studying while I'm watching Gossip Girl. She's watching Gossip Girl while I'm studying at night. And it gets distracting. So, taste in music, I know it doesn't sound like really a big deal, but, because you're like, oh, well, we each have our own iPods. Well, you also probably have an iHome or something of the sort where your roommate or you will be playing music out loud. And for me, I kind of wish I could play my screamo music out loud, but excuse me, I have the hiccups. My roommate would not put up with that. So we listen to country music out loud a lot. Sometimes I just don't, I'm not feeling it, but my roommate doesn't care. So music taste doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's something that you should still, take seriously. There's a reason they put it on there. So typically I would not recommend this, but you should definitely Facebook stalk them. Because if they're the type of person that posts status every 5 hours about their boyfriend or girlfriend, they're probably going to drive you crazy, because they will be Skyping that person, they will be calling that person. If they're also going to OSU, they will be in your room all the time, and that is also another source of a lot of fights between roommates. um, and Facebook, not everyone, but if you want to get to know me, you look at my site, it's pretty much me. I'm pretty blunt. I don't lie on my Facebook. It is who I am. So it's a good way to get to know someone, outside of the basic questionnaire. It's definitely important to talk to your roommate if either of you are planning to do ROTC or sports, such as rowing, where you have to get up really early in the morning some days or every day, um, or if you choose to do classes early in the morning. Um, Again, for the respect of the other roommate who is not doing that, um, whether they can sleep through it or not. Um, no lofting beds, if we're in bunk beds, which saves a lot of room for activities. I'm gonna say that a lot. I really like the movie Step Brothers. Um, Lofting beds where they're both lofted, or no lofting at all. We can just raise them up a couple inches so you can store some stuff underneath. Who brings what, such as carpet and printer and I don't know if you can show refrigerator, something big. Um, because if it doesn't work out, and if hopefully you watch a video, you don't need to do this. But if you change your rooms for whatever reason, um, make sure that it's not going to be a huge problem, or if you know, it kind of just sucks when your roommate leaves and takes the fridge with them, because you're stuck with warm food all the time. So, I mean, who brings what? Balance out the money issue. Don't be that person that buys the $40 carpet and the other person buys a $100 fridge. Don't be that person. Borrowing. It's actually a pretty big deal. For me and my roommate, she comes home, I'm doing homework, whatever, and she's wearing my jacket. I didn't even know she took it. Not a big deal. I don't really care. That's just how I am. If she wants to use it, she can use it. I'm not using it. Why not? As long as she doesn't ruin it. But she knows that. So, but for some people, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and you need to make sure that you guys are compatible with that. Because if you have someone who's willing to, take your clothes without asking, and you're the type of person that's like, don't touch my stuff, then there's gonna be a lot of problems. And then the last thing I'm gonna leave you with, my original roommate Taylor Darby, love you, girl, she ended up switching to a different school in a different state, pretty last minute. And yes, it was a bummer because we had these plans, we had the color scheme picked out, and we were excited to room together. We had gotten to know each other. She came out to Portland. We hung out, went to Cupcake Jones and got some awesome cupcakes. And then she transferred universities. And yeah, it's disappointing. I have another friend who her roommate left during the summer. Now it's a little bit later than mine, because her roommate got preggo and is now going to beauty school to learn how to do hair. No offense, but this is, I guess, my message is that it doesn't always work out. Sometimes people, for them, maybe your state isn't for them, and but I will leave you with the fact that late roommates, they do work out sometimes. Not all the time, but in most instances, it does. For me, I made a page, the Oregon State freshman class, 2011 or whatever, and there's 1,500 freshmen on there. And because I made that, I was able to find a roommate that worked for me. Now, I'm not saying all of you should go out and make a page because then suddenly there's 1,500 freshman pages. But, if that's something you want to do, if no one else is doing it, you should do it. It works out. People recognize me all the time. But, yeah, that's how you can find roommates, Um, it's hard sometimes, and sometimes it just comes down to, them sticking with someone. And, you can always move if there's a problem, but, which I really hope there isn't. Your first college experience should be, really pretty much perfect. More than you expected, even. And that's what I hope it is for all of you guys. And roommate, you're at home pretty much 12 hours of the day, at least. And having someone that you're compatible with and is, friends with, you're friends with, it can help a lot. I will say that if you're going to room with someone you knew from high school, it's a make it or break it. I will say that not all friends are meant to be roommates. Um, Shout out to twins. I have two best friends that are twins, twin girls. Love them to death. They're totally like my sisters. You know, we love each other like crazy, as if we're a family. But I would never be able to live with them. It's just not in the cards, and you shouldn't force yourself to think that if you are best friends with someone, you guys will be perfect living together. Because I know of people, you know, they couldn't even make it through the first term. They couldn't make it 10 weeks being together. They ended up having to move out. One of them had to move into a single by themselves in a different building, and it can ruin it. So I'll just leave you with that advice. Um, but yeah, that's I guess the things that come to my head first when I think of choosing a good roommate. So, alright, alright.